Hello and welcome to Vintage Video. I'm David Mossner. Today we're looking at different types of art. Painting to engraving, crochet, making music, building saddles, making movies, and forging steel. We start with artist Dick Termes and his self-titled design known as Termespheres. The South Dakota-born Termes began creating these round works of art in 1968. In 1987, that's when I met him, as he set up shop in the Capitol Rotunda. A quick note, near the end of this story you'll see color bars on your screen for a few seconds. Those serve as a placeholder so the station can add other video before the story goes on air.
It's a mirror image, but it isn't. It's a backwards mirror image, so I don't know what that's called.
The ball is a Termesphere, named for spearfish artist Dick Termes.
This is for the Aberdeen Convention Center, and it's they had a contest up there that I won to do a piece for the center. And it's based on a Dakota theme, and I convinced them that part of the ball at least should have the rotunda, because I was just excited about making a copy of the, you might say, the reflection of the rotunda on a sphere. And then part of this ball will, part of the rotunda, the patterns of the rotunda will turn into the landscape of South Dakota.
Weaving pictures onto a sphere like Aberdeen's takes 6 months to finish and costs $11,000.
This is my first realistic where I've actually tried to copy something I've been looking at. I never do work that way, and it's very exciting to me because it's it's much more complicated because you have to deal with a reflection on a ball, but it has to be in reverse of a reflection so it reads correctly, because a mirror is backwards, and I want this to be normal, so when you look at it you see what you see. One of the exciting things about the rotunda is it has not only the dome roundness, but it has really nice perspective. And it has a four-directional hallways here too under the dome, and that perspective is what turned me on to start with. I started playing around with perspective until I came up with 6-point perspective, and so I'm always fascinated with places where you can stand and all the directions around you have that 6 directions of space to them.
Aberdeen won't be the first with the Termesphere. He's also on display in the Smithsonian.
There's about 70, 75 that I've worked on over the past 18 years. Some of them as large as 7.5 feet and then down to 13 inches and 10 inches.
After his 2 days in the State House, Termes took the sphere back to Spearfish for more work. It'll be unveiled in the Aberdeen Convention Center in 6 months. Dave Mossner reporting 430. Interested in seeing more? You can find Termes' one-of-a-kind style at termespheres.com. The community of Lemon, South Dakota invested in a 40-year-old company and brought it to town, creating jobs and works of art made with copper. Shiny rolls of copper are quickly pressed into action, or hats, or trays at Gregorian Copper Products. Gregorian's an established company over 40 years old, but only 3 years old in Lemon.
The company originated in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and was ran there for 40 years. 29 local stockholders throughout the Lemon area bought the company, moved it to Lemon.
The copper products go to gift shops and souvenir stands across the country. A new line of postcards has been stamped with success, moving so fast places like Mount Rushmore can't keep them in stock. That success is boosting hopes for expansion and helping on Main Street.
They provide a second income for some of our farm and ranch wives that do come in, and allows the family to have that extra income and to have gotten through these tough times.
Gregorian now employs 12 people. The quality in that workforce, according to the manager, is reflected in the copper that carries a lifetime guarantee not to tarnish. If business stays bright, he's hoping for a shiny and untarnished future. Dave Mossner, KELOLAND News, Lemon. I don't remember the reason why I went to the town of Winner, South Dakota for a feature on a woman who creates art with a crochet hook. But it does prove the adage that everyone has a story to tell.
When I was about 8 years old, a lot of my girlfriends were crocheting, but I had older girlfriends. So I kind of wanted to fit in, so I took 8 or 9 lessons, and then I just broke out and done it on my own. The lessons were holding me back. They didn't want me to go any farther than what they had planned. So I thought, well, I'll just do it by myself, and that's what I done.
There isn't much of Connie Jones' handiwork hanging around her house. In fact, she had to borrow the work back from friends and clients to display the doilies and wall hangings at her home.
It's not really hard to do. It just takes a lot of time, and you got to be real careful to get all the stitches the same size. If, like a wall hanging or something, if you don't get them the same size, it's gonna hang lopsided. And then that looks terrible, so you don't really want to do it anyway. It calms me down. When I'm upset, I can grab my thread and make out a doily, and by the time I get done, I'm in a better mood, and then I can deal with my kids and cook and clean and everything else.
Whenever there's a few minutes during the day or after the kids have gone to sleep to pick up a needle and thread, Jones is busy working on something, and that work is generating even more business as a crocheter of wall hangings and small pieces. The first big picture finished by the Winter Woman is a wall hanging of 2 swan. But ask her which one piece of work was the most difficult and her favorite, there's no question, the Lord's Supper.
I wanted to get it perfect, and it took me such a long time to do it, and I was so scared that I was going to do something wrong, so I'd go back, take a little bit out, redo it, and it was just more in my mind that made it hard than anything. But I worked on it and done the best I could, and so far everybody said they loved it. I think it's taken me something like 3 months, but I kind of got it down to where it took me 340 hours.
Big projects like the Lord's Supper require more space for work. Otherwise, Jones says it's basically the same idea as most of her work, even the small pieces. Work that during the last 20 years has begun to take its toll.
I got a nerve in the back of my eyes that was getting weak, and I couldn't focus to do anything. And this is such fine, delicate work, I had to break down and get glasses.
Keeping track of each stitch, whether it be a chain, popcorn, double, triple, or half a double, is old hat by now, so Connie has her eyes set on her windows.
I want to make a set of curtains to hang in a bay window. I've seen some at a lady's house, and I just fell in love with it. So what I'd like to do is go over to her house and see how it was done and write me out a pattern and go ahead and do it to make for my windows.
Connie says she has been asked to teach crochet, but isn't sure it's something she wants to do. She is hoping, though, to make her crochet handiwork available to a wider audience.
I'd like to have my own craft shop, yes. It's always been my dream, but I just kind of figured it was out of my league. But now that I'm started, I think I can, eventually I'm going to get it.
A crochet shop with plenty of strings attached by the owner herself. Dave Mossner reporting for 30. Pierre is home to pianist Calvin Jones. I met him for a story on his first album. In putting this collection together, I looked him up online and discovered he is still making music, with several albums and film scores to his credit. You can see more at calvinjones.com, but first you can meet him here as a 21-year-old college student. The music at the start may sound familiar. He developed it into a song he calls Whitewater Chopsticks. he started playing the piano at 6 years of age. He started writing his own music at age 10. It wasn't until he reached the age of 17 that he started recording.
I started putting some of these things on a home tape and started selling that to some friends and things that liked it. And I had so much demand for that I decided to go ahead and make the album, which is a professional recording, and get it out to more people. The album is a collection of 9 tunes which focus on feelings and insights gotten from the mountains. So the name of the album is Through High Places.
Turning the relatively simple chopsticks into a classical song is part of what Calvin Jones identifies as his style.
It came out of some of the classical pieces that I had performed earlier and improvised on. And I also began to write lyrical compositions. And so that gives the music more of a lyrical melody, something that, you know, sticks in your head that you end up singing after you listen to it once or twice. And there's elements of popular in that too, so it's almost a cross between classical and lyrical and popular styles is what it is.
Jones graduates from Michigan College in May.
My major is in economics, and so really it's people kind of wonder at that my major isn't music, but I guess I'm just applying the economics I'm learning and putting it to work in what I do best, which is music.
Dave Mossner reporting for 30. The next stories make music and art a little different. We head south to Gregory, South Dakota, where a young couple set up shop building custom-made boots and saddles. The ROS Saddle and Boot Shop moved on to Gregory's Main Street in July after 2 years in Highmore. It was a tough move for Scott and Kathy Bartlett, but they say Gregory worked hard to get them to move, calling them every month for more than a year. Just an example of how tough the fight is between towns trying to build up Main Street.
But they have done everything that they could to help us. They finance us at a lower percent rate, and they gave us free rent of this building for 6 months, and you know they just did everything they could to get us here to help us. And I can't say enough nice things about Gregory.
I got started doing saddle repair. I had bought my own ranch, and when I got into it, the cattle prices were kind of high, and I hit a drought 3 years in a row, and I needed some extra income, so I started repairing saddles, and that led to building saddles, and I just kind of was something that I'd like to do, and always had kind of had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to do that as a living, and finally got out of the ranching business and started building saddles full time. We custom build boots. I went to Vernal, Utah to a custom boot making school out there, and got back home, and I had a lot of the machinery already to build boots, and just kind of took it from there. We take a pedograph, which is a weight-bearing imprint of the sole of the foot, and we took a tracing of the foot, and we put marks on this tracing so we know where those measurements were taken on the foot. And then the last can be set on that tracing, and all the measurements come out on the same spot on the last as they did on the foot. And we have to transfer those measurements from the foot to the last to determine that they're the same, so that boot's going to fit. If there's any oddities in the foot, we can put build-ups on the last to accommodate, say if they've got gout or a bunion or whatever on their foot, we can accommodate that, and that way that, they don't just have a straight boot, it's going to fit every joint in their foot.
The Bartlett's business has taken off with 40 pairs on order, in addition to the shoe repair they do at the store. Orders are coming in fast enough, extra help is being added. 5 people work at the store now. And the Bartletts hope someday to have a small production line for the ROS boots. The genuine article carries a genuine style price. Bartlett's boots start at $300 a pair.
Our base price boot is a cowhide, cow, calf, or a bullhide boot. And you run into, I'm sure that there's a lot of hides that are exported out of South Dakota that are tanned and that go back into the boots. There's no way of knowing that, but I have made a buffalo hide saddle. Elephant is one of the most durable hides that you can build a boot out of. Elephant or shark.
And that's one thing, we guarantee the fit on the boot. If the boot doesn't fit, we'll rebuild the boot or build you a new pair at no extra cost to the customer. And then Scott has a 4-year guarantee on the shark hide, which I don't know of any other company that has any kind of guarantee on their boot. And he guarantees that it will last for 4 years. And
as for saddles, they may have gotten the Bartletts started, but that business is slowing down.
I think the 3-wheelers and the 4-wheelers have taken their toll, but we still build quite a few custom saddles. Not as many as I used to.
We have several orders from surrounding states. We went to Minnesota 2 weeks ago and sold 10 pair out there, and these men, they're professional men, they're businessmen. They work at an office and a desk, but they want something that fits and that's comfortable, and it's almost like a prestigious thing, and they paid $950 for their boots, and they didn't think anything of it. And then we had a lawyer come in here he was from South Dakota. He ordered a pair of boots, and he had the scales of justice inlaid on the top of the boots. We can do anything that they want to do, and we never ever duplicate a style. So when they order something, we never remake it, and they have one of a kind.
One of a kind done the old-fashioned way, stitch by stitch and nail by nail. It's slow work. A good week of production produces just 6 pair, each pair taking about 3 days to finish. ROS is having the store's future may not lie back in the saddle, but walking into the sunset in a pair of Bartlett boots. Dave Mossner reporting, 4:30. When the production crew pulled into Pierre, South Dakota in 1989 to film the movie Dances with Wolves, it was exciting for the community even before the film became an award-winning hit. One of the first jobs was finding locals able to join the cast.
And it's a 28. Extras or background gives the film texture, real, gives it the feel. It's like the third-dimensional quality. So they're extremely important. Hi.
The chance to be on the silver screen, even as an extra, is a chance of a lifetime.
Definitely out here seeking for someone to notice me.
Probably another Robert Redford.
Dances with Wolves needs extras to populate an Indian village and needs some bareback riders for a buffalo hunt during the movie.
I'm a college student. I need summer employment. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity.
Paying to ride bareback horses for a change, so we wanted to check it out.
There's a chance of stepping out of the background. There are a few small speaking parts to be filled and some major roles for 3 boys.
We're also looking for about 3 young boys, age 10 to 13, 14. We have some very good speaking roles for them, featured roles.
When I was on the horse, it was sort of scary, and then after I was riding it for a while, I started getting loosened up.
It'll be 3 weeks before the extra roles are cast. Don't call them, they'll call you. Dave Mossner, KELOLAND News, Fort Pierre. Our last look today crawls into the past, to a time when new tools or equipment were forged over a blazing fire with an anvil and a hammer. Spending time with W.C. Bell for this story was one of my most fun and one of the prettiest stories I ever shot.
My dad taught me the basics of it, and I was later on when I went to college in Brookings, they was teaching forging class, so naturally I took it and picked up as much as I could from him, added to what my dad had already taught me, and one has to work with it quite often to keep in practice. If a guy don't, nothing works quite right.
W.C. Bell likes working in the fire, as he refers to his blacksmithing work. The 74-year-old rancher started working with bellows when only 4 years old.
When we did any forging, it was something that had to be fixed, had to be done. There was no time for monkey business. I do it as a hobby because it's the only thing that really interests me is working in the shop here and then working with horses. But mostly I like to work here, and when somebody comes, I like to pass it on to them if I can, so they can see how people forge well, because there isn't too many people do it anymore. This is more or less just crawling back into the past, and showing people how they used to do it years ago.
One of the ways they used to do it was with a song at the tip of their hammer, an art Bell admires.
The old-fashioned blacksmith would just play a tune on his anvil. He would a few hits on the iron and a few hits on the anvil, just make a nice little tune as he played. And they was extremely interested in having their anvil ring. They would take and put a little piece of cork under each corner of the anvil, and it would just ring just beautiful. While if you'd put a piece of rubber on there, just have that dead sound to it, you know, and it just make them sick, you know, almost, because they're used to that beautiful ring, that little tune they played.
W.C. Bell likes working the iron, but he says he wants everything as modern as possible and doesn't want to return to the days of needing a forge and anvil around the ranch. Just the same, Bell is trying to preserve the dying art of working in the fire, passing it on to his children and grandchildren.
Nobody has the time or the patience to monkey like this, because, for instance, a pair of spurs, you go to the store and buy them, or a log chain, you go buy it, and you go off and you use it. Well, or if something breaks, you have a welder patch it together right quick. Well, it takes a lot of time to patch it up or make it in, as you saw. It takes a lot of time to forge out a link. Well, a welder could just do it real quick in a hurry. But it's just the fact that that's the way they used to do it, and so it's just keeping the old art alive as long as I'm alive.
Dave Mossner reporting for 30. That wraps up this edition of Vintage Video from my days as a reporter-photographer. Thanks for joining me. I'm David Mossner. See you next time.